This is the next video in the Historic Ordnance series. Now, before I get into it, I gotta put out that little warning to remind everyone. Do not attempt to make something like this unless you are in a resistance situation. You are fighting off an invader. You are fighting a tyrannical police state that is rounding people up, taking them to a decided ditch, put a bullet in their head, and dumping them into the ditch. Or aliens have invaded. If you try making something like this at any other time, even just to test it out, you will get caught. You will go to jail for an extremely long time for violating multiple federal and state laws. Now let's get into it. This video is going to be on something straight from TM 31-210 Improvised Munitions Handbook, a Special Forces manual on improvised devices that was created in the 1960s for Green Berets to teach resistance fighters overseas. This particular thing was referred to as the Mortar scrap mine. It's not too much different than a grape shot charge. It's just different container, really. Now, what was needed for this, according to the manual, was a pipe 1 meter long and between 2 to 4 inches in diameter. It said in there that they really recommended artillery cartridge casings. That was what held the powder when the casing was fired. Now you need to make sure that the pipe or the casing has no cracks, no flaws, because what could happen then, instead of this acting like a black powder firearm, it turns into a giant hand grenade. If you're using a threaded pipe, you need to make sure you have a cap to go on one end, the back end. Other materials required: black powder or artillery propellant, 8 ounces worth, half a pound. You're going to need an igniter or a blasting cap to set that powder off. You're going to need shrapnel, which is what you're going to use to tear through your enemy patrol. You're going to need rags for wadding. You're going to need a bag to put the propellant in, and it doesn't specify a particular material for the bag. And you need a wooden push stick. Now, the first thing that you do, you make your propelling charge. You're going to take your bag, you're going to put your half pound of black powder in there, or half pound of broken up artillery propellant into the bag. You're then going to put the igniter or blasting cap in there approximately halfway in the center of the bag, if you can. Then you're going to go through, you're going to tie it off with string, wire, tape it up, whatever you can, to make sure that igniter cannot be pulled out and the propellant cannot fall out of the bag. You're going to have the wires that are going to run out. Those firing wires are going to go back to your trigger, however you're going to set it off. If you're going to do it as a command detonated using some type of firing device, or if you're going to attach it to some type of booby trap, pressure plate, or something in the ground that the enemy patrol is going to step on to set this mine off. After we get our propelling charge, we're going to push it in using the wooden stick all the way to the back of our container. We're going to pack it as tight as possible without puncturing the bag. Then we're going to add 6 inches of rag material. And when they're talking 6 inches, they're talking from the front of the bag here going forward. You want 6 inches worth of packed rags. And you're going to make sure that you pack those as tight as you can. Then you're going to add your shrapnel material. Weight on the shrapnel material, if I remember correctly, it said like 3 to 4 pounds max. I think it recommended 2 to 3. And the shrapnel material, In order to conform to the laws of warfare, it has to be a material that can be seen on an x-ray. You cannot use glass. You can use rocks. Rocks will show up. But glass is a huge no-no. But you want primarily metal. You want bits of metal, cartridge casings, metal links from the machine gun, just bits of scrap, wire, whatever you can get. You want it in small pieces that as it's flying through the air, it's going to be somewhat aerodynamic. You don't want large chunks. You're going to pack that in there. Then you're going to add another section of wadding in front of that. Another about 6 inches. I'll say 4 to 6 inches. And you're going to pack it as tight as you can. You're going to have your firing wire that's going to be on the bottom of the mine that's going to go out over the lip. The mine is then prepared. You then go to your ambush site where you're going to hit that enemy patrol. They recommended digging it into the side of a mound, attaching it to the side of a tree, whatever, so that you get a good coverage of your kill zone. Then you're going to take your firing wires, you're going to attach it to the battery, you're going to attach it to your firing device, or you're going to attach it to your pressure plate with battery, or you're going to attach it to your firing device, depending on how you're going to set it off. Then you go through, camouflage everything so that it will not be seen by the enemy. If you're attaching something like this to a tree, well, you're going to look around you, find some bushes, you're going to cut them off down near the ground, and you're going to plant those bushes around that tree to conceal that this mine is there. If it is put inside of a little mound like it is here, you're going to put some leaves, some brush, something over the front, but don't put on too much. You just want enough that you're going to camouflage it. You're going to camouflage those wires into the ground. Make that little trench there. It doesn't have to be super deep. Hide that wire down in there. Going all the way to your firing position if you're doing command detonation, or to where your booby trap device is that's going to set this off. Now the procedures I gave you is for electric. According to the instructions, it can be done non-electrically. You can do this with a normal non-electric blasting cap, and I would say probably MDI, shock tube, to set this off. But as I said, this is something that the Special Forces had in their manual. I have heard of similar things to this being employed. I don't remember if it was Iraq or Afghanistan. I do remember some people talking about coming across something like this. When they came across it, it was set up for command detonation as part of an ambush. They looked out. They found the ambush, took out the ambush, followed the firing wires, and then they found something like this. So this type of thing has been employed in the past, and anticipate it probably would be used again. Now, just a further reminder, once again, do not make something like this unless you are in that resistance situation. You are fighting an invader. You are fighting to defend your family's lives, your friends' lives, because that tyrannical police force is coming in and they're just killing everybody. If you make something like this, even to test it out, and you're not in that situation, you will get caught. You will go to jail for a very, very long time. Now, for all my engineer brothers in the Patriot Militia movements, always remember, essay ons.